Now, I have to start out this video by saying I have a newfound appreciation for anybody that plays a Pidgeot Control deck, because in my very limited time playing the Pokemon TCG, I have never had this much trouble learning a new deck. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with Pidgeot Control, this deck basically just aims to counter anything that you could possibly see. Now, this one is set up for the regional tournaments, so a lot of like the Regidragos and the Charizards and things like that. But we're going to test it out today in TCG Live and see how it works for us. And I can't say I'll be providing the best guide you'll see on the internet, but we'll stumble through this and hopefully you'll learn some things on the way at the same time that I will. Either way, I borrowed this deck list from the Toronto regionals, I believe. Pidgeot Control seems like it's been around for a while since Pidgeot EX came out, but this is the most recent version that's done pretty well at a regional tournament, so I'll flash that on screen to give credit to the person that actually made this deck, but we're going to borrow it today and see what we can get done. So from what I understand, there are a couple different ways you can win with this deck, one of which is decking your opponent out, so getting something stuck in the active slot so that they can't do anything, they can't attack you, and then discarding their cards with all of your supporters. You can also use Bloodmoon Ursaluna to take some knockouts if it's advantageous to do so. And what makes this deck so difficult is that there isn't one line you can take to win each game. You really have to have a good knowledge of what cards are out there and what your opponent could have in their deck to be able to play against it and be ready for it. So we'll go through some of the cards here to talk about what they're used for in the deck, and then we'll jump into some games and see if we can actually get a win with it.
It looks questionable to me.
And as you can tell, my confidence is through the roof with this deck, but we'll start with Toedscruel here in Slime Mold Colony. So this ability keeps your opponents from taking cards out of their discard pile so they can't be put back into their hand. So I think the reason this was added to the deck was for Regidrago, so the V-Star ability that lets you take 2 cards out of your discard pile when they need it. This will stop that from happening, as well as things like Night Stretchers. So this can get in the way of your opponent if they're relying on getting things back out of their discard pile. I think cards like Gholdengo also will have trouble with this because you discard the energy when you use that attack, and then you'll need to get it back to be able to attack again, and you can't do that with this card in play, so that stops that. We also have a Black Kyurem EX here for other dragon Pokemon, so again, for Regidrago, if you use the Ice Age attack, your opponent will be paralyzed if they're using a dragon Pokemon. And I believe Raging Bolt is also a dragon Pokemon, so Black Kyurem can stop some of those attackers. Lumineon V as usual, so you can get a supporter out of the deck, so most decks have that involved. We have the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX here. Now I've used the Torrential Pump attack in like a Lugia deck to do some bench damage, but this one is going to focus more on Sob. So this is a great way to lock one of your opponent's support Pokemon into the active slot and keep it from retreating. So if you get them to use all of their switching cards and you can gust up something like a Manaphy or something that doesn't really attack, then you can keep them from attacking you just by using Sob over and over again. And if you use a double turbo energy, it does no damage, so you're not going to be in range of knocking them out, and you can just keep them there as long as possible. And that's similar to what we have in Mawile. Mawile is Tempting Trap. We'll also retreat lock them, so if you use this attack, they can't retreat, and then on the next turn they'll also take 90 more damage from attacks, so a bonus there. Now we also have a Luxray V in this deck, so if you get to a point that feels pretty safe that your opponent isn't going to be able to retreat and attack you with something, you can promote Luxray, use a double turbo energy, and then use Fang Snipe to search out their trainer cards and try and discard them, so really mess with their hand and get rid of things that could help them progress through the game. There's also a Regieleki in this deck, so if you use Electromagnetic Sonar, you can get a trainer card from your discard pile back into your hand. So if you want to use Misfortune Sisters to discard more cards, or Eerie to discard more cards from your opponent's hand, you can cycle back through a couple of your supporter cards and continue messing with your opponent. We have a Rotom V, because a lot of times we won't be attacking in this deck, so we'll want to draw more cards and have more options. We have Mimikyu in this deck. I've also seen 2 copies in other decks, but this will keep any EX and V Pokemon from attacking you, so a good way to lock your opponent out from attacking. We have a Fezandipiti EX to draw more cards, and then we also have this Genesect card. Now the Ace Nullifier ability will keep your opponent from using Ace Spec cards if you attach a tool to this Pokemon, so that will help keep them from using like a Prime Catcher or something that they can gust up with, or if they are again using Gholdengo and they want to use that Energy Search Pro, they can't really get started without that card, so this keeps your opponent from using Ace Specs, which are really impactful in the game, and will lock them out from those as long as there's a tool attached to that card. We have a Bloodmoon Ursaluna in case you do want to use some attacks. So we can use this pretty cheaply. If your opponent takes the first prize card or first 2 prize cards, you're basically going to be able to attack with Bloodmoon Ursaluna using a double turbo energy and then a counter gain. So you'll be behind in prize cards. You can use a counter gain tool and then be able to attack for 220 damage. So a good way to take out some threats if your opponent puts a lot of energy on one card. Again, the deck doesn't work without Pidgey or Pidgeot EX, so that's essential here. And the first item card is a counter catcher, so this is super impactful in this game to be able to control or dictate what card is in the active slot, because for most of the time you're going to be behind in prize cards. You're not going to be the first one to attack, or you really shouldn't be. So if you're behind in prize cards, you can kind of control what goes into the active slot with counter catcher. We have a heavy ball because we have many one copy Pokemon in this deck, so a heavy ball will help get them out of your prize cards. We have a Lost Vacuum for those pesky tools and stadiums that we want to get rid of, a couple Nest Balls so we can find our Pokemon, one Night Stretcher so that we can pull a basic Pokemon or an energy card out of our discard pile. We'll have a Pal Pad because we're going to be using a ton of supporters in this deck that we're about to go over, so this Pal Pad will let us take 2 supporter cards from our discard pile and put them back into our deck. We have our rare candies so that we can evolve our Pidgeots. And for our A spec, we went with Secret Box. So this is super impactful to be able to choose an item card, a tool card, a supporter, and then the stadium is fine. But just being able to choose those 3 or 4 cards early on in the game to get yourself set up and put into a good spot is a huge advantage in this deck. We have a couple of switching cards because most of the Pokemon here are going to be basic Pokemon, so you can use that for almost anything here. We have a few Ultra Balls to be able to find our Pokemon, 1 Collapsed Stadium so you can control that bench a little bit, 4 Arvins so that we can search up our tool cards and our item cards, a couple copies of Boss's Orders here so that we can do something similar to Counter Catcher and gust up our opponent's Pokemon into the active slot, try and trap something. We have an Eerie here so that we can discard 2 item cards from our opponent's hand. So if we think they have something like a rare candy or something super impactful, we can try and use Eerie and discard those cards and put them in a bad spot. There's also an Erika's Invitation in here in case we think our opponent is withholding something that would be able to trap in the active slot. We can use Erika's Invitation to get it onto the bench and then gust it into the active when they may want to keep it to themselves. We have an Iono in here, and then also a Misfortune Sisters, so this lets you look at the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck and discard any number of item cards. So this is huge for just messing with your opponent and making sure they don't have the resources they need to get around your cards. We have a few copies of Penny in here so that if your opponent does end up putting damage on something, or if there's something that's in the active slot that you want to get rid of, you can pick it up, take all the damage off of it, and then put it right back down. So it helps you recycle some cards in that way. There's a Roseanne's backup here, and this is really helpful for a lot of the time getting an energy card out of the discard pile. So we only have, I think, 3 energy cards in this deck, and this will help you get one back if it ends up getting knocked out. There's also a Thornton, which I think is one of the best cards in the game right now, so you can take a basic Pokemon from your discard pile and switch it with one of your basic Pokemon in play. So if your opponent is knocking out your Mimikyus, or they're knocking out your Pidgeys or something like that, and you really want to get something set up, you can use Thornton and just get that right back into play. We have a 0-6 Machinations to discard more cards, so if your opponent is building up a very large hand, you can slap this down and they'll have to get rid of everything but 3 cards in their hand, so that can be a good surprise if you use it correctly. We have a Bravery Charm to make a couple of things just that much harder to knock out, and then a Counter Gain, as we mentioned before, to help with Bloodmoon Ursaluna's attack, or even, what was the other card with 3 energy? I think it was the Black Kyurem. EX has a 3 energy cost, so if you use a DTE and then that Counter Gain, you can attack with Black Kyurem EX. There's a Defiance Vest tool card in here that allows your Pokemon to take 40 less damage. So a lot of times you'll put this on the Genesect to make it a little bit beefier so it doesn't get knocked out so easily and keep those A-spec cards from being used. There's a Forest Seal Stone here so that we can look up any card we need if we put this on Rotom. And then we have a Devolution in here. So if your opponent uses all of their rare candies, you can go ahead and use this card and just take out all of their attackers. And then finally, down for the energy, we have 2 Double Turbo Energies and 1 Mist Energy. Again, we can get one back with Roseanne's backup, but that's really all you need in this deck. So that's the run through of how I think these cards are going to be used. So let's take a look and see how it goes. Wait, I forgot. Hang on. We have to show the full deck list first. So it's huge. It actually cut off here at the bottom because it's so big. This is 1 Collapsed Stadium, 2 Double Turbo Energy, and then 1 Mist Energy. So this is the full list in all of its glory. If you could help us hit our like goal for today of 30 likes, I would appreciate it so much. And also, we're still on the way to 500 subs. So if you could subscribe if you find yourself here often, help us get to 500. That would be awesome. And now we will get into the gameplay. And going second, I think we'd rather go first, but we're going second, starting with Mimikyu. And our opponent took a mulligan. So I know we're playing against Charizard, which I think we have an okay matchup into. We'll take 2 cards here, but I think we just need to get our Pidgey set up pretty quickly, or our Pidgeot, to make sure we have what we need to get in their way. I'm going to hope that we can get them to use their switching cards, maybe Boss's Orders and stuff like that, pretty early to knock out our Rotom. I'm going to assume they have a Duskull to get rid of our Mimikyu. Oh, there it is. So if they evolve that into Dusknoir, they can take out our Mimikyu, but we have ways to get it back with Night Stretcher or with Thornton that's in our hand right now. So if we can just get them to use a bunch of those cards to use their rare candies early on, we should be able to retreat lock them later in the game. And I think that's the angle I'm going to try and take. Okay, Genesect is good in case they have a Prime Catcher. I think that's pretty common in Charizard decks. So if we can get a tool on that, we'll keep them from using any ace specs. And I think from here, it's just Arven to get ourselves set up with a Pidgey. And then a tool. So Nest Ball. Oh, is it Secret Box here? I don't know if I want to throw away 3 of these cards. No, not this early. Secret Box could come in handy, but we'll just take the Seal Stone and Nest Ball for now. Okay, we'll get our Pidgey. Two rare candies are in there. I think we have our tool cards. And we have all of our energy. Okay, I think I'll attach the Seal Stone here. Don't think we'll use it quite yet. I could get a tool for Genesect, but I don't think they're going to use an ace spec this early. So we'll just instant charge, get a couple more cards, and see what they're able to get into. I think early on, if they bench something that can get trapped, we need to do that to get them to start using their cards. To trap something and then just start using like Eerie and Misfortune Sisters so to get rid of the rare candies. Ooh, Manaphy. Okay, thank you. They didn't need to do that because there's nothing that I'm going to be doing that, you know, it has an attack for bench damage. So they didn't need to put that Manaphy down, but that's a good target for me. And I like seeing that they put an energy on the Pidgey. I think they only run, Charizard decks only run like 5 or 6 fire energies, if I was thinking correctly. So if they can put that into the discard pile, maybe we can make it difficult to get back if we use our Toedscruel. So we have options here. And again, this is like part of the many different lines you can take. There's no straightforward option. Maybe there is, maybe there's a well-known strategy against this deck, but kind of figuring it out as we go here. Radiant Charizard. I don't plan on taking prize cards, especially not early on. So that's another thing we can trap. I mean, they would have to attach 4 or 5 energy to it to be able to even use it. And it has a high retreat cost as well. I mean, if we retreat lock it, it doesn't matter with Sob or with Mawile. So that's another option. All right, sweet. We just top decked a rare candy, so we can go ahead and get our Pidgeot. Don't think there's any tool cards we're going to be worried about in this deck, so I don't think we'll need the vacuum. We get our Pidgeot. What else did I miss? Most of our supporters, 2 counter catcher. We have a Night Stretcher. Okay. I'm assuming that Mimikyu is going to get knocked out by Dusknoir pretty soon. Just want to make sure I have a way to get that back, whether it's Thornton, Night Stretcher, plenty of ways to keep bringing it back because I think that might be how we win at the end of this game. All right, quick search here and see what else we want at this point. Is it just Eerie? Yeah, we'll see if any of those 5 cards in their hand are a rare candy would be ideal. I've seen people that play this deck and they have like signs of knowing what's in their opponent's hand by knowing what they've thrown away. So that's probably the smarter way, is to wait until you get something. But all right, Super Rod and Buddy Poffin. They have a Dusknoir in their hand. Okay, so we'll see if they can get to a rare candy or if they can draw an Arven. I mean, they can't use Lumineon to get up a supporter to grab Arven because they've bench locked themselves by putting out a Manaphy and a Radiant Charizard. Okay, I think we just instant charge. All right, Misfortune Sisters for the next round or next turn. Oh, I probably could have Seal Stoned to put a tool on that Genesect. I forgot I need to put a tool on it to keep them from using an A-Spec. But again, they will need to evolve something here. So if they start using their rare candies, all right, I'm assuming maybe a Charizard, if there's some way they can get to it. Okay, or just a couple damage here. I'm kind of okay with this being knocked out because that'll put us behind in prize cards. And then we can use this Ogerpon we just pulled to maybe saw block something so they start using their switching cards. I want them to start using those things. So maybe I set up the Ogerpon here. Okay, yeah, we use our Star Alchemy to get the energy we need for Ogerpon. Maybe this is silly if they can just get to a Charizard and then gust up our Pokemon, but if not, we should be in a good spot. So yeah, we'll get our DTE. Yeah, if we use Misfortune Sisters, maybe we can mill a rare candy and make it difficult for them because they still have to get to a Pidgeot, they still have to get to a Dusknoir, still have to get to a Charizard. There's plenty of things that they need. What do we get here? Arven? Oh, I'm trolling. We already had an Arven. I was doing this so we can get an item and then another tool, but I didn't see that we already had one in our hand, so that was silly. I'm just gonna throw the game here. Don't mind me. But I think it's Defiance Vest here for the Genesect, and then a Night Stretcher for when they knock out our Mimikyu. So now they can't use an A-Spec. Yeah, that's it. Instant charge. I should probably be careful about how many cards I'm drawing, but we can always Iono them back. I have a much bigger hand than they do, so I think we're still ahead in number of cards remaining for that end of game deck out. And we still have cards that we're going to use like Misfortune Sisters. Okay, so just the Charmeleon here so they can knock out the Mimikyu. But that's honestly okay with me, because now we can go for the lock, and I want them to use their switching cards. I think they have 1 or 2 switching cards in this deck usually, so giving away a single prizer isn't bad. I think we just got to watch for that Rotom being a 2 prizer. Okay, we'll get our Mimikyu back. And then I think from here we get our counter catcher. Now that we're behind in prize cards, we'll do this so that we can save a supporter and use something else instead of using boss's orders. So we'll lock this Charizard in place and then see what we can get here. Rare candy, nice. Betty Poffin doesn't really matter. Okay, is that, I think that's the first rare candy down. They haven't used any. And no, don't do that. So I just see Fezandipiti and I think like, oh, that needs to go down from other decks, but not always. But yeah, 1 rare candy. They still need to get to a Dusknoir, a Pidgeot, and then they won't need one on that Charizard. Okay, so this has got to be, they got to be getting to a Pidgeot here to set up a little bit better if they have a rare candy in hand. And maybe this should have been a Mawile lock instead of Wellspring Ogerpon, so I was only putting forward a 1 prizer instead of offering, you know, if they're able to knock out a Mimikyu using this Duskull, they'll be able to knock out Ogerpon with Charizard in 1 hit. But they haven't done that yet. They still got to get to Dusknoir. Maybe they're not using that many rare candy because they have a bunch of stage 1s between Charmeleon, Dusclops, Haven't seen Pidgeotto. But anyways, we have a very large hand here. I think for the most part, we just want to stay where we are. Wait for them to get rid of their Dusknoir, probably on the next play. Okay. Use our quick search here. I think Thornton that we just passed is how we're going to bring back our Mimikyu when they knock it out. We have De-Evolution in here still. Don't think I want any of these. We'll just go with Lumineon. So this is for the possible Thornton play. I know we can just search it using quick search in the future. But I'm thinking if they get rid of our Mimikyu, we can put down Lumineon, grab Thornton, and then replace it with that Mimikyu again and just get it right back. So I want to prepare for them to use Dusknoir here. But that doesn't help them get Radiant Charizard out of the active slot. Okay, so as expected, Dusknoir being used. I think they discarded another Dusknoir already, so I don't know that they're going to be able to get back to this for another use. So this might be the only Dusknoir play they have of the game. We can get our Mimikyu back using Thornton and carry on from there. So I'm surprised to still not see any switches. That's what I was trying to get rid of with this Sob lock play. Oh, the Genesect. Okay. I mean, I guess that's similar to them taking out Mimikyu where we can get it back in the same way. That must mean they have a counter catcher in their hand. Or prime catcher, sorry. And they want to use a prime catcher here. If they can... Yeah, if they have prime catcher here, they could put a Charizard onto that Charmeleon and then take out this Ogerpon. Or not, they didn't have it. Okay, they probably should have gone with the Mimikyu there. We also got a Toedscool in our hand. I don't remember if I saw the Toedscruel in the deck, but that could keep them from getting energies back potentially. Okay, so here we go with Lumineon. Go ahead and get our Thornton. Yeah, that seems fine. And then otherwise we'll just continue our saw block. So they took that out, put it right back. And then he did get rid of my tool. So we'll go with Bravery Charm, I suppose. The others could be used later on, so we'll go with that. We're back to where we were, and we'll continue our lock. So yeah, it's not, they can't put energy on a Radiant Charizard at this point. I mean, they should probably use a Professor Turo or something to pick it up so that I can't continue doing this, but we still have Manaphy in the case that they do that. Oh, there's a switch. Okay, we have our Eerie in here. Okay, so here comes the Charizard. And they have used a switch. That's what we were looking for. Not fantastic to lose Ogerpon, but we knew that was possible. And let's see if they add any energy here. Because if they put it on the Radiant Charizard and they put too much of it on there, I mean, they would have to put 4. I don't know if they have that many in the deck anymore, because I know they discarded one earlier. So they shouldn't have enough to get Radiant Charizard into a spot that's usable. they should probably just skip this. Oh, and they put it on the Radiant Charizard, which is good for us. So they can't use that attack. They can't use that energy elsewhere now. Okay, there goes Ogerpon. We'll put Pidgeot here first, but it might just be back into Mimikyu. See if they have like a canceling Cologne or something. Or, no, I think maybe we go for Mawile here. Nope, no Mawile. We'll just fail that. Must have prized it, unless I discarded it here. I did not. Okay, so Mawile's prized. So maybe we need to find our heavy ball. Yeah, we'll put Toedscool down because we'll check and see if Toedscruel is in the prizes as well. Because I think we can see if they have another switch card if we trap this Manaphy. So I think if we just put our Mimikyu forward, they could just canceling Cologne through it. Heavy ball. But yeah, we'll see if we can get them to discard that later on. So I think the Mawile single prizer is the way to go here. We will have to use our double turbo energy, which isn't the best, but we can always use a Roseanne to get that later on, Roxanne, whatever that card is. So yeah, we'll go with Manaphy here. We'll see if this is the right play. Yeah, I was thinking if I put Mimikyu forward, they could just cancel and Cologne it. And this will at least make them look for another switching card. Because it seems like they had trouble finding that to begin with. We'll get rid of our Rotom here because we have plenty of cards in hand. And I don't want them to just boss up that 2-prizer, but we'll get back some of these cards to be able to keep discarding things from their hand. So we can search those up in the future. So now we've locked Manaphy. They will need another switch. We'll see if they have another switch in the deck. And I'm sorry to spoil it for you here, but they did not have another switch card. This game actually went for another 10 minutes of them just using their Pidgeot to search up random cards they weren't going to use, evolving another Charizard, using boss's orders against me, but they weren't able to get out of this Manaphy, so that was a win. There it is. Oh, that took forever. So going second once again, we have to put a Pidgey forward. And I see Miraidon here, so I'm going to guess it's not a turn 1 donk deck, I hope. All right, yeah, we are playing against Miraidon, which is mostly V and EX Pokemon. So I think we have a pretty favorable matchup here, seeing that they cannot do anything about Mimikyu. We'll see if they have some single prizers. I'm trying to think through this deck to see what they have that they could use against Mimikyu. I guess they could do canceling Colognes to get through it, but if we can get them to use enough of those canceling Colognes, we could be pretty set up here. Again, they might overbench a bunch of stuff here. I mean, there should be plenty that we can trap in this case. We'll just see what they do with their energy to start out the game. Our Pidgeot will be in trouble of pretty much everything that they put down here because it's weak to electric. Okay, the bigger bench, they have a Thorns as well. Not too worried about the Thorns. I mean, I guess that could keep me from using Pidgeot. But yeah, they're set up to take that out with Raichu here pretty soon anyways. But I think we'll need to draw some cards here. So Toedscruel I don't really think we'll be too worried about. We need these other cards. So the Defiance Vest will have to go, and we'll grab... When we prize it? No, it's at the end. Okay, so we have Rotom. We also have a Forest Seal Stone. We have our sisters, Thornton, one Arven. One Arven? I wonder how many, do we have any in our hand? I think we have 4 in the deck. So that would be a crazy number prized. Yeah, one Arven? That could be a problem. Okay, so I think we seal here. Yeah, we can't get to Pidgeot without a candy. Do I want to get rid of a penny and a boss's orders? I think I just need to put down Mimikyu to start. So I mean, I could get a Pidgeot and get... Yeah, we'll just switch these around. Because again, I could have gotten Pidgeot here and then gotten Mimikyu out, but I think they're going to target this Pidgey here pretty early anyways. So we'll see if they take out the Pidgey and I'll just give up one prize card rather than using a rare candy and this Ultra Ball to get to a Pidgeot just to have it knocked out. So if they don't knock out the Pidgey on this turn, I can try to get a Pidgeot and then lock something else. Ooh, a Magnemite. Okay, so that's a single prizer that might be able to do some damage to Mimikyu slowly over time. But that also might just be like a penny situation where they attack with Magnemite and I can just penny to pick it back up. Yeah, 20 damage. Will take them a while to get through even a Mimikyu. And Magnetic Charge just attaches energies, I believe. Ah, okay, so they are going to do it. Just using one. I wonder if they would have had enough energy to take out a Pidgeot. I'm trying to decide if that was the right choice or if I should have gone for the Pidgeot. I think they probably could have found a way to get more energy. I don't know, they only had 2 cards or 3 cards in their hand at the time. But I don't think there's anything else they can do right now. They could boss up this Rotom, but again, they don't have much in their hand. Maybe I should have Secret Boxed, gotten rid of their Stadium. I probably could have done more on that turn instead of just passing, but I'm going to force them to do a little bit more here before taking too much actions, too many actions. Pikachu could be a good thing to try and lock here because I don't think Pikachu is usually used as an attacker in this deck, so I don't even know if they have the proper Steel or Grass energy, or if it's just here for Area 0 Underdepths. I mean, the fact that they have Magnemite makes me think they have Magneton that could grab energy for Pikachu, but then again, that just could be to set up Iron Hands. Alright, so here's a generator. We'll see what they're able to put together. One on the Thorns. They're going to retreat their Raichu with a rescue board into the Thorns, I guess? Yeah. Maybe they just want to make sure we can't use a Pidgeot. Okay, yeah, I think it's time for Secret Box. I probably should have done this on the last turn. We were throwing a bit there. Get Ursaluna out of here. I mean, I think it might be a mistake to get rid of those, but I also think I can just lock something from retreating in a bit and win that way. Our counter catcher, no reason for the evolution, but that's the only tool we have. So it could be some good Ultra Ball. Discard stuff. Okay, Secret Box goes, which is good to get rid of their A-Spec. I mean, they really can't do much here. So I think we just might sit with Mimikyu. I don't want to like waste a counter catcher if I don't feel that we're in trouble of anything. I wonder if this is going to be another electric generator. Try and build up Thorns. I mean, he doesn't do enough to knock out Rotom. So if he puts damage on him, we can just pick it up and put it back down. Okay, energy booster. I believe that's a free retreat. Yeah, it has no retreat cost. So now what do they want to go into? Maybe the Magnemite? Nothing. Yeah, I think they might be a little confused on what to do here. So we're just, if they're going to be confused, we'll just hang out. until they figure out something to do. We'll just wait. Okay, here's another energy on Magnemite. They have a free retreat cost if they want to go into it. I think this is why it's helpful to have Pidgeot, because I could be searching up some supporters to try and get rid of their cards. They only have 3 cards in hand. I mean, if they do retreat into Magnemite, we can just counter Catcher into like a Pikachu or something. Maybe lock it if I want to get Mawile and find an energy. We'll try again. We'll see if they have another boss, because if they want to pick out, if they want to pick off another Pidgey, that's another boss they have to use. Now maybe we counter Catcher now, instead of making it easy on them. Make them find even more cards. So instead of just letting them boss and take out a Pidgey, now they have to retreat boss and attack Pidgey, which means they'll need an energy. Oh, there's the Lumineon. They'll need to attach an energy, and they'll need a electric generator for something to be able to get the attack off. So yeah, they need some more pieces here, even though we have just such simple cards at the moment. They're using, this might be like their 3rd Arven as well. And again, I can't say this is elite Pidgeot Control gameplay, but just sticking a Mimikyu in front and waiting, but it seems to be working so far. Again, there's probably more that I could do to get to a Pidgeot. And that's it. We stumped them with that. All right, well, thanks, Mimikyu. All right, so that was Pidgeot Control. And again, not the best gameplay in the world, but it seemed to work out. It seemed to work in those couple of games. There was one game in the middle there that I played against a Regieleki that I did not get to my Black Kyurem quick enough and couldn't find the energy and just kind of got steamrolled as they used a canceling clone against Mimikyu, and then we're just sniping things on the bench with Dragapult. So that was a rough game, but other than that, 2 out of 3 is not bad. We'll take it. So thanks for watching. Click one of these other 2 videos if you want to see some more, and if not, we'll see you in the next one.